This podcast is powered by Pelotonia. To learn more about our goal to end cancer, visit pelotonia.org or see the link in the episode notes.
While playing basketball, I took a hard foul, and my back started hurting.
When he first hurt his back, they did several x-rays and then one MRI without a contrast dye. So this went on for several months. And then when we finally said something's not right because he's not healing, he can't get relief, like what's happening. So then they did the next MRI with the contrast dye, and that's when they saw the mass. There's this old Southern gospel song, and it says, "Don't wait till the battle is over, shout now, because in the end, we're going to win." So you're still fighting. See, I go, You're still fighting, but you shout now because you know victory is in sight.
Welcome to One Goal, a podcast from Pelotonia. We're a community that's dedicated to funding life-saving cancer research through a 3-day experience of cycling and volunteerism. I'm your host and ride community manager, Jill Lendino. Your journey with us to the finish line begins now. Through research, we will see an end to cancer. Thankfully, every single penny raised through our riders, virtual riders, and volunteers goes directly towards the solution. This is made possible by our major funding partners, the L. Burns Foundation, Huntington, the American Electric Power Foundation, and Peggy and Richard Santulli. It's because of them, all of our partners, and this dedicated community that all of this is possible. In the fall of 2015, Brian Baker was playing a game of basketball that may have quite literally saved his life. A hard foul he took during the game set off a chain of events that drastically altered the next 4 years. 6 years earlier, his wife Lachandra was hearing about a community bike ride that is devoted to raising funds for cancer research. Of course, neither Brian nor Lachandra had any idea that these events would both quickly become intertwined with one another. Let's start our conversation reflecting back on 2009, when Lachandra first volunteered with Pelotonia. In this episode, Victory's in Sight.
He picked me up at the 25-mile stop where I was volunteering because I rode my bike there thinking I was, very special to do that. But I rode on 2 flat tires, so I made it really hard for myself. And so I said, yeah, I'm not riding home. You need to come get me.
And
that's how I roll.
And that
Legit
was the start of your journey. And then when you ended up riding in our event, you found out that we can fix a flat tire for you.
Yeah, she can fix flats. and I definitely found out that peanut butter and jelly sandwiches taste like filet mignon when you're riding that very, very long distance. Those literally are the best peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the planet.
So back in that first year when you decided to sign up, did you know anybody personally who had been affected by cancer, family, friends?
Yeah. So, interestingly, my aunt probably 30 years ago had breast cancer. And it was for sure a death sentence. We never even thought about cures. We just how much time do you have? And she struggled a lot. It probably wasn't even a good year before she passed. And that was the closest person to me to have it. But it was medical technology and advancement is you didn't even think about it the way we do today, right? You just said, okay, let's say our goodbyes, let's give her love and just try to make her comfortable the rest of her days.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm so amazed at now with the technology. It's kind of if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, you take this medicine and you can still be okay. There's longevity that happens now, that you can actually be a cancer survivor. And that was something that we didn't even know was possible back then.
So you talked about going to dinner right before you went to Riverside for the first time. I can't imagine what it was like to know all of these things swirling around. What was that like? Did you tell people you were with?
We knew we had cancer, but we didn't know, there's no sense in saying what we don't know because they're going to start to ask questions and we don't have answers. So, the night of the dinner was interesting because my L3 had actually collapsed, which caused a little bit of nerve damage in my right leg. And my leg was somewhat numb. And we're here in the short north, and I'm still trying to figure out what's going on in my body because everything's kind of changing. And I'll never forget, my wife decided she wanted to run across High Street and to get to the restaurant in the short north, and here I am trying to drag a leg and get across without getting hit by a car, and I had to pull her aside hey, you need to slow down,
Sorry, I lost my mind for a second. I totally forgot.
Honestly, I think I was less worried about the cancer at the time than I was about just staying upright and my awkward appearance with rods coming out. But it was definitely interesting. There was a lot of stuff going on through my head, and it was a whirlwind of emotions. But you have to keep it even keel until you know exactly what you're dealing with.
Until we know all the information, we don't share it readily, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't tell anybody yet because we don't want to get people worried, and then we don't want to say, I don't know, when they ask you a bunch of questions that you actually don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So this was something that was pretty intense for us, and we ended up having to call my mother-in-law, his mom, to go watch our daughter because we were like, hey, we're going to go to the hospital. We'll be back shortly. Yeah, that didn't happen. That was like 4 days later we were able to get out of the hospital. So it was kind of this weird thing. And she didn't know because we just like, oh, we just go to the hospital. We didn't even tell her what for. So we had to tell her then at that point, like, it looks like, Brian has cancer. And so as his mom and as a mom, I know that feeling, even though he's, a grown man, that was really hard for her to go through that because she'd never had any real sickness around her family either. So to hear that, her son had cancer, it's been a journey for her as well. And she spent a lot of time with us this last year doing the CAR T cell, and she helped out a ton for us. But it was very hard for her, to be a part of that.
She really stepped up, and I can't thank her enough for all that she did. So I'm a mama's boy. I'm an only child, so the fact that that she stepped up the way she did was just amazing.
And at 7:00, left the dinner and went straight to Riverside. Spent all night at Riverside. They were doing all kinds of X-rays, and this was Thursday night into Friday morning. They finally admitted us Friday afternoon at 3:00 and said, "Well, you definitely look like you have cancer, but we don't know what kind yet. We have a small staff over the weekend, but we're going to do our best to diagnose you so we can figure out how to treat you." And then Dr. Peter Corliss became our oncologist at the time, and we love him so much.
Great guy.
But he is just an amazing guy. So they found out over the weekend what he had, and then Monday we made a plan. Tuesday he started chemo. And so it was literally within a week and a half after diagnosis that we were in the hospital, and he started being treated. And he did chemo first, and that seemed to work a little bit, but then we hit a 6-month mark, and it came back. And it came back with a little more vengeance with it.
Yeah, I think my body's got a flair for the dramatics. So, it's like can't just do it normally. We got to go in and let's make it as challenging as possible.
Yeah. So then we scheduled, Dr. Corliss transferred it over to the James with Dr. Samantha Jaglowski, who we also love in that office at the James. So we scheduled for him to have a stem cell, autologous stem cell transplant. So we did that in the summer of 2017. And everything was looking good, and we were feeling good about it. Then we get to the 6-month mark, and it came back again. And so it was like, we can't get past this halfway point. And they said, at this point, we're probably going to have to look at CAR T cell.
Yeah, we've been truly blessed with the James and the work they've done. And just to think, when I was originally diagnosed, that CAR T cell therapy wasn't even an option unless you were in a trial. It's amazing how quickly therapies can change. So, it gives people like me hope, and that's a message I want to send to other cancer patients.
And the really good blessing for us is that it was just approved by the FDA the fall before we were going to get it. And so that was really good on our behalf. So we were able to get that and get him scheduled to get in. And so last November of 2018, he went in for the CAR T cell, and he was able to get it. We had a few complications in the beginning because he ended up having 2 blood clots, one on each lung, during the process, which complicated the procedure. But again, the whole staff at the James worked so close together. Neurology, oncology, cardiology, everybody worked together to say, what is the best course of action for this patient to get the best outcomes, and we're going to do what we can to get him there.
Yeah, with the CAR T cell therapy, they withdraw your blood, and then they separate it, pull your T cells, and they send them off to a lab, and they re-engineer your cells to be able to identify your specific type of cancer.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing process, and most of the side effects are reversible, which is a lot better than what chemo can sometimes do for you. The neurotoxicity is one of the most intense periods that you go through with it, but it's a short period, and it's honestly harder for your caregiver than the patient. But it's an exciting new opportunity in cancer research for all cancers. If you look around the country, they're doing immunotherapy, CAR T-cell therapy on all kinds of different types of cancers now. And you can really see it almost like it's the future. Yeah. And hopefully it is, and the results are that we eliminate this disease.
We tried to really keep the kids on even like, hey, there's a lot of research out there. We don't know what this means. We're going to be okay. Like, we always try to keep it really, really, really upbeat for the kids, but for our in-laws as well. But we'd always have these conversations like, okay, what do we need to do? It was never we're just gonna just stop and just give up. It was almost, okay, what do we need to do now? So with the kids, it was one thing. With our parents, it was another thing, and then with friends, it was another thing. Because what we didn't want people to do is, this is gonna sound crazy, we didn't want people to feel sorry for us. Mm-hmm. The way we looked at cancer, and we still look at it, is it's both a blessing and a curse.
I won't say it defines me, but I've embraced it, and I want to make it into something positive, regardless of the outcome. I want to be encouraging to others and motivate others to, like she just previously said about, living your fullest life. One of the experiences that I had is with a gentleman named Joseph Banks, and I met him at the Pelotonia pre-party, and. Yeah. When was that?
17.
In 17, and he came up to me, and we talked. It's the first time I met him, and he came up to talk to me, and we had a good conversation. And by the end of the night, he kind of pulled me aside and say, hey, you're a soldier for what you're going through. You're really doing a great job, which I really appreciated. Yeah. And a lot of people say that, but I didn't put much thought into it. But what really I found amazing was the next day is he went home and actually ironed my name onto his shirt. After one name, he had to ride the next day. So he took the time out to put my name on that shirt. And one of the greatest lessons I learned was from him, and I didn't know this was going to happen, but about a month later, he was in a roofing accident, and he passed away. And it was a reminder to me, whether you're healthy or you're sick, you need to maximize your time, and we have fully embraced experiences over things after that. And God rest his soul, I don't even think he even understood the impact that moment had for me. It was such a small gesture, but especially after his death, it was such an impactful moment.
The cool thing too, I'll say, that my husband doesn't. He won't toot his own horn, so I'm going to toot it for him. After he met Joe and he did that, he started writing positive verses on dog tags. And when we encounter somebody who has cancer or who's going through cancer, he'll have them made for them and give them to people to kind of give them an encouragement. And he'd tell them, you're a soldier on the battlefield of cancer. And so that's something that he has done. And we were actually able to give a pair to Joe's sister. And it just touched my heart. And the biggest thing, when they do the Instagram 9 pictures or whatever of the year, the dog tags that Brian made is one of her that made her top 9.
That was pretty special.
It was very special.
You guys didn't let this slow you down at all. You're some of the most involved people in the community that I know. I mean, there's so many people that know you. You're involved in so many things. You care about so many different aspects of the community. It's not like Pelotonia is your one thing.
Right.
Right. I find that so incredible. And I would just love to hear more about how you guys have kind of prioritized your time and even used the things in the community that you're a part of to really find strength through this whole thing.
Yeah, we just have a give back mindset. We've always had that. Ever since I was a young girl, I always saw my grandmother. She was a pillar in our community. I grew up in a little town in southeast Georgia, and everybody knew Mama Millie, so they called her. And so she never turned a stranger away. If somebody came in, they were hungry, she gave them food. They needed clothes, she gave them something on their backs, right? She was always in that give back mindset. So I just grew up like that. And so when we got married, it was just something that was just natural for me. And I'd say, come on this adventure with me, basically. And so we just go and we meet people and we talk to people. And when we were in the middle, the second time when his cancer came back, we were at the site to get our chemo. And it was a room probably about twice the size of this one, but not too much.
Which we're in a very small room right
we're in
now.
a small room, so everybody can understand.
Yeah.
And there were probably about 40 chairs in there, and everyone was sitting there getting infusion of chemo. I mean, just room full of people. And so my husband also getting the chemo, his heart was just breaking. He's just like, we got to help people. You know, I stood with him the whole time through the journey, but there were plenty of people who were there alone. Yeah, so he's like, babe, I want to do something for them. And I said, what do you want to do? And so there was a Panera that was right down the street. So he said, can we just give them a meal card? So, yeah. So I went to Panera and got meal cards for everyone. And he, with his infusion pump in tow, went around and gave everybody a meal card and told them that you're not alone on this journey. Like, you have people who care about you. And I don't have to know your name, but I know what you're going through. And it was just a powerful moment. And it just, you think you cannot love somebody any more than you do. But it's like, I literally fell in love with him all over again for his selfless heart.
Our community of friends is, it's been amazing. Every time the cancer come back, they would pull together, whether it was from her employee or employer or from our friend base, and constantly we're getting gift cards and visits, and even Doug Allman showed up at the James to visit with me for a half hour, and for him to take time out, half hour, he's got a busy schedule. Yeah. For him to take time and sit in my room at the James and talk with us is something special. Mm-hmm. And to see how the community comes together to support us was absolutely phenomenal.
And I think it's just really important from a caregiver perspective, if there are friends out there who want to help them, really ask them what they need. You know, I had another friend, especially when he was in the hospital for 34 days this last time, Barbara Hess, and she just said, I'm coming to you. I don't care what you need. I'll be there, and you can tell me what you need, you know. And if it was just to make me laugh, she sent me the funniest memes and crazy stuff via text just to give me levity during that time.
Oh man, it's like she said it our love just grew, and you appreciate when you go through something difficult to have her there, and you know when she's sleeping on that tiny little couch at the James, she's not comfortable. And she's not, she's going through some stuff too. And to see that, you appreciate and you value having your caretaker and your best friend and your lover, and having them there and having them being your support, your rock. It was just amazing, and it's a debt of gratitude. I don't know if I'll ever be able to pay back. She was phenomenal through the whole process. So I was amazed by her.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Still are.
Yeah.
Every day.
She reminds me every day.
That's right.
How amazing she is.
And like I said, I loved him one way when we got married, and I love him a completely different way now. And he has been my best friend, and he has been my hero, and he has been such an inspiration to me and our children and our friends.
It's important to take a second to review Brian and Lachandra's incredible journey. He's undergone 3 rounds of chemo, 1 stem cell transplant, and 1 CAR T-cell therapy, each with their own unique challenges. But through it all, they never gave up hope.
I would definitely say, don't let the cancer define you. It's a step in this journey, this thing that you're doing, and it probably is going to dictate some of the things that you do beyond this. But there's a humanity that you share, whether it's love or admiration or respect or appreciation, that you already shared before you started this journey, and you got to hold on to those things.
The first year of my diagnosis, I was kind of angry, depressed, why, poor me, and I had to get out of that mindset, and once I did, I started living better than I ever have. You kind of take down that fear because you always worry about what people think of you or whatnot, and then I kind of lost all that, and I was able just to embrace what I was dealing with and move forward, and we've done a lot of traveling, and we've met a lot of great people, and you have your down days. When you do, take a day off, but you know what, get back up. You still got time. You don't want to waste that time because that time is precious. I think positive attitude and prayer is probably some of the best medicine you can receive.
If you could go back to that moment, knowing everything you know now,
I would go back and tell myself not to waste time. I spent a year of my life just being bitter and angry about it. You know, I wanted to blame somebody. There's nobody to blame. It's life. You know, it happens. I can't get that year back. The median survival rate for what I have is about 10 and a half years. So I've literally lost 10% of an opportunity where I could have been a lot more happier, making other people happy, serving my community, and embracing others and doing positive things instead of being negative. So, I think that would be the main thing, is just try to, it is what it is. And I think my doctor, the one thing he said to me, Dr. Corliss, he says it's not a death sentence; it's a condition. It's just like heart condition or diabetes or anything else. We just need to try to maintain it, and that kind of put it back in perspective for me. With how to deal with it. And I knew there was a lot of treatment options out there that will provide longevity for my life. So I should have been more focused on that and the possibilities in the future that I still had, and not getting all caught up in the moment of what I didn't have, which was my health at that day or that period. Yeah, I think the traveling experience is one thing that we really embraced, and we've really done a lot of that. I've been to Vegas and LA and New York and Chicago and we got it's our 10-year anniversary this year, and in October we're going to go to Fiji to celebrate that. So we're, instead of again going back, we're not trying to embrace things, we're trying to embrace experiences, because we'll have those forever.
One of my favorite memories outside of our trips over the last couple of years is he rode in Pelotonia in 2018. And I drove around to all the main stops, and I followed him on my map app. And every time he was going there, I cheered him on, and then I get in my car and go to the next one, and I cheered him on. But I tell you, the best thing was him coming across that finish line. And me and two of my best friends were there to watch him, and it was such a moment of elation, because even at the time we knew he was going to have to go get CAR T-cell, and he had 3 tumors that were growing, and he said, I'm not going to stop, I'm going to keep going. And it was such a powerful moment for us. And the really cool thing is the recap email that Pelotonia sent out the next week had his finish line picture in it. We were like, heck yeah.
I laughed because when I crossed it was intense, but it was fun. I just put my head down and went. I was so determined because I was kind of angry that my cancer bag. Like, you ain't gonna dictate my life. You ain't gonna make me not ride in Pelotonia. And I went out there and I rode it. And actually, she was having trouble keeping up with me because I was getting ahead of her GPS.
He was getting ahead of my GPS. I could barely catch up with him. I was like, what is this?
But yeah, it was simply amazing. It's probably I'll put it down as one of the highlights of my life. Looking back, that's probably one of the highlights, being able to do that and have cancer while I was doing it. It's just, I knew if I could do it and I get it done, I could inspire others. You can still live and still do things with cancer. It's not one thing that people say to me all the time, and I appreciate people saying it. But after a while, it kind of drove me crazy. And people come up to me like, "You look great," and I'm like, "Well, what does somebody with cancer look like?" Because people have cancer every day, and they walk around, they work, they jog, people do day-to-day things with cancer, and I want to be an example of what you can do, and that's how I try to put myself out there. I think just the community and seeing the people cheering you on, and I had a Survivor jersey on, so people rode by, they would applaud, give me some encouraging words or whatever, and it was amazing experiences. I'm glad I did it. I signed up again to do it this year. So thankfully, with the research that Pelotonia's, or the money Pelotonia's raised, and the research that the James is doing, it has allowed me to get healthy enough to potentially ride again this.
Not potentially, you're right.
You are right. You can do it.
I'm cautiously optimistic, but I will ride regardless.
So we have one more big scan coming up at the end of May, which is going to be a defining moment for us because it's 6 months. And we know this 6-month thing that we've been going through for the last 4 years. So we're kind of holding our breath a little bit, but we're ready. We're ready for whatever it is.
The story of Brian and Lachandra Baker doesn't stop there. That scan they mentioned has happened. His scan was delayed a week, but on an early morning in June, my producer Vince started the day with them in their driveway.
I've been told I'm in remission. I've been told my cancer's back like twice for each now. So it's like, it's a roller coaster ride. So I use the term cautiously optimistic. So I feel like I always got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So I'm ready either way.
Get out of here, rain!
Yeah, man, I was telling you last night it's supposed to rain, and today it's like perfect time, right?
Right now, I'm thinking I'm tired because I didn't get enough sleep last night. We've been doing it for 4 years, and probably every 3 months for 4 years. So that's what, 4 times a year. So this is probably our 16th time.
Yeah, sometimes it was like every 3 months, and then it was every 6 months. So it just depends on the treatment.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Every treatment's different. You got, straight up chemo, what he did before, and then he did 2 different types of chemo in the very early days, and then we did the full-on stem cell transplant, and that didn't work as well as we thought it would. And then so now we're with the CAR T, so it's been a little different every single time, but we go with the same hope and anticipation, and we go with the same anxiety.
If it does come back, I'd probably be asking my doctor about trials and seeing what else might be on the table, but right now I'm just gonna hope it ain't back and I ain't gotta worry about it.
So at the end of the day, what we're looking for, he could be stable and improving, which is the good thing. That means he has a chance for longer term remission. He could have some growths that may be harder to move than others, but that might, be a different option that he has to look at. Or things could stop shrinking and start growing again, and that's the worst option.
It's Whitney Duhamel. I'm the nuclear medicine technologist. I've been here 11 years. And what a PET scan is we use a radioactive sugar to go in and take. Sugar is always very highly metabolic. And so we put them into a sugar starvation, which is why he hasn't been allowed to eat for the last 6+ hours. Then when we inject him with this radioactive sugar, we want him to kind of sit here and be as much at rest as possible. Cells that are highly metabolic are also cells that are quite often cancer cells, draw up all of this sugar so that in about an hour when we scan him, we'll be able to see at a molecular level if there's any kind of metastases.
I fell asleep. It's pretty uneventful. Had to lay still, not twitch and stuff. But yeah, it's like you get in there and get cozy and they put that warm blanket on you. But other than that, pretty uneventful. Now the wait to see the doctor, and then once the doctor comes in, then we'll get some answers and see where we go from here.
When he registered for the PET scan, that's one thing. And when he comes over here, he registers to see the doctor so she can tell us the results of the PET scan. So 2 different sides of the house. So this one is for this side now. So he just has to register, and then they'll send us upstairs to the hematology lab, which is where our doctor is. I take this patient resource center for the families. It's so awesome because I do a lot of work here when I'm here. Hello, sir. Thank you for being here. That's right. So yeah, when I do work, I come down here. They have phone charger, private conference rooms for us to do stuff, and then also coffee. A lot of the researchers that Dr. Jaglowski has come in around are doing research based on funding that they've gotten from Pelotonia, and even with this new CAR T immunotherapy, the advances that they're going to have, Pelotonia is doing a huge push for giving money to that to advance it from where it even is right now, which is huge for us because we're looking at it like we were in the early stages of when they first kind of released it. But I'm thinking even in the next 2-3 years, that's going to be a first line of defense for so many of these cancers, and it's going to be made possible from the research that Pelotonia has funded.
Every time I brought my mom, they literally flipped the screen around like, see all those black dots? That's cancer. And my mom's like jaw dropped.
It freaked her out. It freaked us all out. But I tried to I don't know. I don't think that's as I think that was already there. I don't know. Yeah. So it was hard. It was really hard.
I'm fine. I think when I get closer you get to the doctor coming in and giving you news, you get more anxiety.
So they head up to the second floor of the James to the hematology lab. After Brian has his blood drawn, he settles into an exam chair inside a small room. Lachandra is less than a foot away by his side. Leading up to the primary visit by Dr. Samantha Jaglowski, a handful of different nurses and staff stop by to ask various questions, putting the information into a nearby computer.
That's one nice thing about Dr. Jaglowski is she herself has had cancer. So it gives me a little bit of comfort knowing she's been on this side of the fence. So when she's approaching me, I know she's walked the walk. So there's not much to think about until you find out one way or the other. And so once that happens, then the wheels start spinning in whatever direction. So it can be positive, it can be negative, but ultimately I have control of it. So I just got to keep my bearings about me and try to be positive no matter what the results are.
All right. Well, Wendy will finish up, and then Jaquela and Dr. Jaglowski will be in, okay? All right. Thank you.
Ronnie, good to see you.
You too.
We have this swing. We've had the swing over the last 4 years. We go to this caregiver-patient kind of thing, and then we go back to being husband and wife. Then we go back to being caregiver-patient, and it's like this. It's this weird thing that, like, physically we're still together, but like the emotion and mental capacity around it shifts depending on like how sick or how well he is, right? And when we have these little pockets of the remission, which is why we always get so, like, are we going to be here for a while or do we have to go back? Because we start get into a different rhythm and then we have to revert back to that rhythm. And then we get into a different rhythm and we revert back to that rhythm. So that's been challenging.
Any marriage.
Yeah.
Go back and forth from caregiver to husband and wife. Because it takes time, because once you're getting treatment, even though like you're done with the treatment, it still takes you a month or two just to get your strength back up and everything else. So yes, that makes it challenging, but we've pushed through. Yeah. There was a definite role adjustment because I had worked all my life and to be not able to work and be on disability, and then my role switched from going to work every day, working 10, 12 hours, to now I'm at home doing laundry and dishes and keeping the house clean. I still struggle with that sometimes, the nuance of it. I don't mind cleaning, but it's just not fulfilling. So I try to find other ways to fill my time up, but that role for me was really tough to transition into. Still is.
Eventually, CNP Jaquela Robinson stops by to discuss Brian's situation and to say the words they've waited 4 years to hear.
So your PET scan read is not back, but the images look fantastic. We don't see anything in the growing area anywhere. We see nothing.
So you mean nothing, like you don't see the tumors anywhere, like you don't see nothing?
We do not see anything in the area at all. We'll have an official read hopefully in a few moments here so you can read it and really relax a little bit. But looking at the images, everything looks good.
Great. That's amazing.
So, congratulations. You look so good. The last time I saw you, you were feeling really bad. Do you remember that?
Still that time with the guys.
No, I don't. Do you know me at all?
All right. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Hello? Like, hello? You have no tumors?
Well, there's no evidence of disease.
Whatever. Stop it. This is fantastic.
Yeah, so we'll get the final word from the doctor.
I know, we found word, but they see nothing. They see nothing. That's a big deal. They see nothing.
I haven't had that.
We've never had that.
Samantha Jaglowski. I am the clinical director of the BMT and Cell Therapy program at Ohio State. Well, I met Brian before his first transplant. And, he made it through that one with flying colors. But when he came back with a relapse disease, I talked to Dr. Corliss, I was scared, Honestly, his scans are a huge source of anxiety for me because all you want to see is that clear scan. So, from where he was when he came back in with the relapse to where he is today, it's amazing.
As Dr. Jaglowski wraps up her visit with Brian, the roles of patient and doctor suddenly evaporate in the moment, as a sigh of relief is shared between a handful of people on this journey.
I love you. What's wrong with my boo? You crack me up. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much.
Love you guys.
Love you. You're part of our family.
But before they leave the room, Brian has to call the other woman in his life, the one who was with him at the very beginning of it all.
You say hello first.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Hey, you hear me?
Yes?
Huh? Sir? All right. Well, ma'am, now that I got you on the phone, do you, are you, where you at? You at home?
We just got out of Lowe's. We're unloading the car.
Oh.
Unloading the car, I should say.
Oh, okay. Hey, well, I'm gonna send Dad a picture for you. I want you to be on the phone, okay?
You're gonna send him the what?
A picture of my scan for you.
I take it this means it's good?
Tell her, just sent the old scan.
He just sent the old one. Hang on. So tell Pops to look at it. So he just sent you both scans.
Holy cow, that's a terrific difference.
Yeah, it's really different.
That's great.
Yeah.
Terrific. That means you're in remission.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, in remission, I guess.
Ain't no guess. Yes, he's in remission. What'd you say, Pops? What did he say, Mom? I can't hear him.
He said, does that mean that Brian has to get his ass out and get a job now? Oh, that's great. Wonderful.
Awesome.
So wonderful.
Thank you. We love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Love you, Ma.
Love you too.
All right, bye.
So got my optimistic side and my pessimistic side fighting each other.
Yeah. There's this old Southern gospel song, and it says, "Don't wait till the battle is over, shout now, because in the end we're gonna win." So you're still fighting. See, I go, You're still fighting, but you shout now because you know victory's in sight.
We are so grateful to Brian and Lachandra and really their whole family for being a part of our podcast and sharing their story with us. I can't begin to emphasize how incredible this couple is. And they stop in our office to bring us treats, and they greet us with a hug anytime we see them around town. They are a joy to be around, and everybody who knows them is absolutely better for it. So we're so thrilled to be able to feature them here. We want to say thank you to our major funding partners who make everything in the Pelotonia world possible. So thank you to the Alberns Foundation, Huntington, the American Electric Power Foundation, and Peggy and Richard Santulli. The Pelotonia community is incredible in every sense of the word. And we just want to show you how incredible they are by sharing at the end of each podcast a few highlights from our community of creative fundraisers. So my colleague, Olivia Razitz, who is our ride community coordinator, is here to share a little bit more about a fun idea that she's heard of lately that some of our very wonderful fundraisers have done.
I've had the pleasure of meeting a rider in 2018 who celebrated her first year riding that year. And one of the things that she did was really creative because she was honoring her mother who had been diagnosed with breast cancer that year and was going through chemotherapy. And during her treatments, she started this program in art therapy and really fell in love with painting. And so what Amelia did, the writer that I met, she started to put up her mother's paintings around her cubicle at work. And people started asking about these paintings and offering to give her money for them.
Wow.
So she turned it into a fundraiser, and she ended up raising $2,000 that year.
That's amazing.
I know.
And the best thing about that is that all those paintings will live on, and everybody can remember, they didn't just make a donation. They made a donation and got this kind of special piece of her mom's history of her cancer journey. And I love that. Gets to live on afterwards. That's wonderful. Such a great example of the amazing different types of treatment and therapies that are recommended for cancer patients to just support them along the way. So love that they turned that into a fundraiser. Thank you so much for sharing, Olivia.
Thank you.
And now here's a preview of our next episode.
He waited till that evening, and I hadn't really done any shopping. I was trying to recover, and everything I did for everybody had come online. So I didn't visit a single store, and my gifts just seemed like not very heartfelt. And he came in with a bike, and I'm staring at him like, what? And he said, if you're going to continue to fight cancer, you're going to need a better weapon.
You've been listening to One Goal, a podcast from Pelotonia, hosted by me, Ride Community Manager Jill Ondino, with interview production and scheduling by Marketing Communications Manager Emily Smith. Produced, mixed, and sound designed at the studios of Westler Media by Vince Tornero. Additional mastering by Joey Gerwin at Oranjudio. Special thank you to all of our guests for being so open and willing to share their stories. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, as that will help others hear these empowering stories. If you're curious about joining the Pelotonia community and making an impact on cancer research, please see the link in the episode notes or visit pelotonia.org. That's pelotonia.org.